All right, so this is gonna be the SF consume video. I recorded the NF consume video, not consume, NF sleep video yesterday, and I broke it down into FI heavy sleep and NI heavy sleep. And I got a good feedback from Habib on my channel, so I figured why not just kind of build the rest of them the same way. So I actually ended up coming up with an additional element here to add to it. So there's going to be the SC heavy aspect of SF consume, and there's going to be the FI heavy aspect of SF consume, and thirdly the info heavy aspect of SF consume. And that info heavy aspect is essentially going to be what happens when you have done both parts of the SC and the FI of consume, and you put it together. So starting out with the SC heavy aspects, that's essentially just doing things that you like for no reason, and you just enjoy the physical sensations of it. So that's kind of like walking and like enjoying the wind hitting your face. That could be enjoying to, I don't know, go to the gym. It could be just listening to somebody talk without really gathering what they're saying, just kind of enjoying the that sensory of the experience of listening and stuff like that. Can also be, I don't know, it could even be just kind of talking about SC just for the sake of it. Like you just kind of, like switching back and forth SC, even though that's play, but on the consume end of it, you can enjoy just kind of engaging in the process without actually having like a thing to do, because play's actually an energy animal. So arguably if it's play, you're trying to get somewhere with it. But yeah, that's what I'm trying to say there. So that's the SC heavy aspect. Now when you get into the FI heavy aspect, we need to understand that FI is actually creating a spectrum, but it's like a personal ranking system, whereas FE, which is how we traditionally think of like a value spectrum, FE is like going this way, FI is going up and down. So when you're going up and down, it's actually divided into layers, it's divided into levels. So when you're doing FI heavy consume, it's probably going to be stuff like what makeup artists tend to do. They tend to like rank the different SEs. That's FI heavy. Let me see. Whenever you're doing research, you're probably engaging in FI heavy consume. Now info heavy consume is going to be when you combine the two. And so what you're going to see is having a bunch of actual evidence and a bunch of data that is organized into ranks, value ranks. So at the very top, all the way up here, there's a division line from everything below it. What's below it is essentially the middle layer, where you don't know if you like something or not. And the very bottom layer, you're absolutely sure that you're not gonna recommend this. Anything down here is you're gonna talk badly about it. When they get into stuff down here, it's very clear that they intended it to be something that they think is bad. Like it's good versus bad. Like this is absolutely bad, this is absolutely good, this is I'm not sure. This looked like it was becoming both, and I don't know where it's gonna end up. So when they're in the info heavy aspect of the consume, they're specifically trying to like flesh out the SC with the FI. So a lot of people, they find it a lot easier to understand how this works for ST Consume, because they're like very familiar with like ISTPs asking questions to try to parse out what makes the most sense and how, like, what's the actual truth in terms of ranks, you know, like the highest truth of the century. But FI is actually doing that as well. However, it's not with reasons, it's with values. You know, this is the most important piece of evidence, is all the way up here. And that's going to be supported and connected with the ST play. It has to. Why? Because, you know, going into those other perspectives, you're then able to find more consume, right? So like, for example, if I'm saying like the most important piece of evidence is this right here, because in this perspective you find another piece of consume that's also a very important piece of evidence, because, and then you just repeat that process until you build up proof, complete proof for this value. And then the same exact process would occur at the very bottom. You would say this is an unsupporting piece of evidence, or technically you could also say this is a supporting piece of evidence against your interest or whatever it is, or against this reason, or against whatever the fuck. And then you'll say, because of this perspective that also, you know, further supports or doesn't support, or whatever it is. You just create chains that emphasize the value ranking that you place to that, and you're proving it, like you're proving your values. And so in the very middle layer, what happens is it's stuff that's kind of suspended without a completely determined placement. So like, let's say I'm talking about this thing right here. I would basically say, you know, I'm not really sure if this is good or not, that or not that's actually going to work, or whatever it is, because I started looking at this piece of evidence, and then, you know, that was going against what I'm trying to look for, but then somebody else said this, and that kind of supported it. But, you know, I still don't know exactly about this aspect of that evidence, so I'm just gonna, I still have that suspended in the middle. I'm not exactly sure yet. So that's just like the middle layer in there. The SF consumes, they will like really talk like this, like they have these three layers. And so just, I mean, if you want to understand them a little better when you're talking to them, like what are they doing, this is what it is. They're doing the spectrum going up and down with levels. And let me see. I haven't talked about my input-output theory yet, but the info heavy consume can be both input or output. When it's in the input, input being it's updating itself, it's gonna look more like it's creating the spectrum. But there's like consume reporting, which I consider consume output. And output is essentially when you are presenting things to other people, or making an argument that creates your impact on whatever it is, or your contribution. So that's another way to look at it. Consume reporting is when you are presenting these three layers in an organized way. So that you start out with this point here, and it's like there's a whole like river stream that's where all the values connect, and kind of like they know where each other stands. They know where each other stands relative to one another. And that's kind of how the consume reporting is going to look like. Now, if it's like there's SC heavy consume reporting, there's FI heavy consume reporting, I kind of just explained the FI heavy aspect, where you're like specifically talking about the consume as it respects the FI aspect of it. When it's SE heavy consume reporting, you're just like giving out the, like, literally the SE. Like, oh, there's this thing that happened, and then this happened, and that happened, and then that happened. You're not ranking anything. So I want to make that distinction there. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers it.